Okay, everybody, welcome to the last webinar from free webinar series about the sync. And today we are focusing how to start using Vertex BD with the sync. And today the hosts are Philip Sigvardsson, project manager from Sweden office, and I, Kimmo Honkanen from headquarters. I'm product owner of BD. During the webinar, you have possibility to send questions, and end of the webinar, after Philip has showed demo, that we can go through those questions and answer those questions. So don't hesitate to make those questions. Sync, Vertex Sync is cloud service platform which brings everyone involved in the design and construction into the same office digitally, we can say. So it's our newest product, and today we concentrate to the what you can do with the BD and Sync together. Here is the agenda for today. First, we go through how to setting up BD and how you can log in to the Sync, and then how you can utilize your environment and make different kind of configurations and access for your team to use that environment, and how you can share the template buildings, and how and what you can find our building browser about when you have a different kind of status of the buildings with the Sync, and what happens when you are editing or synchronizing the models to the Sync or opening and that kind of stuff. And if you have old buildings, how you could move those buildings to the Sync and use from the Sync. And what are the purposes for the revisions and saves, how you can handle those. And of course, the publisher, which is our tool, which you can convert easily PDF or DVG files and share those via Sync. And the last one, we have something that how you can use reference files which you have added to the Sync and use those in the BD. So now it's time to take the steps to the demo. Philip, yep. It's your turn.
So there we go. I have BD running here in the background. And first of all, the new buttons introduced for Sync are these 4 at the top here. So it's under Archives, and then you have 4 buttons here. The first thing you do is you press Sign In, and it will then give you, if it's the first time running it or pressing the button, it will show you this menu here, where you will basically just enter your organization name, which you have registered the Sync organization for. When you have inserted the organization name, you can now also select the settings if you want to automatically reserve and release the buildings when you're closing and opening them, which is something I personally recommend to keep as it is. Otherwise, you can of course have it fully interactive where you can reserve and release a button manually yourself. But there is a risk involved where maybe you forget, or maybe you reserve someone else's building, and that's not too good. So the recommendation is of course to have it on automated reservation. You can also, as the default, have a new revision in synchronization as default. So instead of it being just a save of the building, it will create a new revision every time you save, basically, or when you sync, more or less. And then of course synchronizes default when closing building. If you uncheck this, it will keep as a local building by default. But this is of course something you should have checked. When you click OK, it will ask you to restart BD. It will only do that once, and then you're sort of tied your installation to this organization. You can then click on this sign in, and you will then be prompted with the same login page as your Sync web browser. So you enter the same details, and then you click OK. And then BD will load, and now you are logged in. You will also see then it has now changed to sign out here. And then 3 of these buttons have become accessible. Before I click and go through the buttons, I will also show that in your bottom tab down here or ribbon, you will see that you are logged in. It will say your name and what organization you are logged into. And so it's a quite quick check to see if you're logged in or not, if you're not looking here. The first page, or the first set of buttons is this one. So the first one is sync to sync. It's if you want to sync a building without having to close it. Basically, if you want to keep working on the building and sync it to sync, if someone wants to see updated drawings or something like that. The next button is show revisions. Both of these are of course only accessible when you're inside a building. That's why they're grayed out now. So these show revisions will of course show your revisions on that building. And then the third one is move buildings to sync, which what Kim described earlier, where you can move your local buildings to sync automatically, so you don't have to do it manually. The next button is the environments tab, and this is where you you store your environment or your custom folder on sync, so everyone in the company can reuse and make sure that everyone is using the latest version of that environment. The 2 bottom buttons here are only accessible to admins of Sync, and then the 2 top ones are of course accessible to everyone. So if I click on environments here, I will see one of our environments, where I will also see a bunch of revisions of that environment. If I want to activate one of these, I can just select the latest one here, revision 6, and then click set. It will then download that version of the environment and then sort of launch BD with that environment active. And if anything changes or a revision 7 is uploaded, it will also prompt the user when they start up next time that, hey, there's a new update. Do you want to update basically? And if you choose no, you can of course also click here. So download and apply latest environment. So if you're on revision 6 and there's a revision 7, you can click there and it will update. And then the next tab is notifications. And here you can manage all your notifications for BD through Sync. It will also in the future hold like information regarding the building itself. So if someone uploads a file, it will probably include that information in the notification so you can sort of follow what happens inside the building. Under the environments tab, I will now start with uploading my environment, because that's basically the first thing you do to make sure that every person in the company is using the same environment. So I click here. It will now grab everything from my custom folder, and then of course some files in the shared folder as well. And I can call this one webinar environment. Use this for webinars. You can of course call it what you want, and in description you don't really need a description, but you can use this one of course. And then you just click upload, and it will now upload that environment to Sync, and you will have this small window pop up. This is your Sync workspace, and this little window is only here, but so you can still work in BD while this is uploading. So I can open a building, I can work, I can do anything, because this one will do the job behind the scenes basically. But you will also see here the uploading was successful, and upload time took 15 seconds in this case. If I now go under environments, I will see my new environment here, webinar environment, basically like this. And it will also show you what version of that environment you are using, marked in green, and then this currently in use tab. So now any user can, so my colleague can go into environments, they can pick my webinar environment, and then they can click set, and they will download and use the same environment. And if I make any changes to it using this button here, update environment to sync, and now it will only upload changes to the custom. So of course, now that I just uploaded it, there won't be any changes. But if I add a wall, let's say, it will also automatically find the files that were responsible for that one, and then upload only those files. And then the user, the colleague, can of course download that one also. So it's a really good way of reserving and handling the revisions of the different custom folders. And you can of course have different custom folders for maybe different companies you are working with, or different subcontractors, or whatever need is. And now we will start by moving our template building to sync, because working in sync, it is recommended that you do have your template located or stored on sync. So all your sort of files which are not needed to be updated or shown in any new building doesn't follow also. So I can click move building to sync. I can now pick my template building here. Click OK. In that same window, I can of course also pick however many buildings I want. I can pick 20 buildings if I want, and it will do the exact same thing. So the process for uploading your template is the same for uploading your standard buildings. And it's the same thing here. You will now be presented with this button, this window here. You can close BD, you can do whatever you want. It will still work or upload in the background. And as soon as that's done, here, so now it says the template building was successful. Click OK. You can now go into archives, into open building. You will now see that the template building disappeared from your local drive and is now instead stored on sync. So if I click on sync, I can search for template. You will now see the template building here. While we are in the the building browser, I will also showcase sort of how the sync buildings look and how they operate. You of course have, if you're very familiar with the previous projects, you have them here. And this one is basically the same with just additional information. You of course have this building status, which shows if the building is reserved, if it's locked, or if it's revision locked, or any basically status regarding that building. You can see all of these with a gray cloud symbol is basically okay, there's nothing wrong with it, or no changes to it. And if you want additional information, I recommend you go into here, edit settings, and then you check this box here, so you enable the data to be shown. And when you do click OK, you can now hover over one of these buildings and you will see a lot more information. So if you look at the bottom right, it says status blocked and up to date, meaning that this building is of course reserved by Christian here. And that's why it has a red cross. So I can't go in and change this building. I can only go in and view the building. I can go into it, I can measure, I can print some drawings, but I can't upload them back to sync. It's only if I want to do it locally. If I scroll down a bit, I have a few more buildings. This one with a pen, for example, the pen with a cross means it's overwritten lock or overwrite lock, where you can't change the active save on this building. You can only make new revisions. You can't change the active save. And then you have the orange cloud here. This one means that there's an unsynced building. So this building here has a newer state locally on your computer, but it's not synced. So it's basically, you need to open this building and close it and sync it back to sync. And the next one is, of course, this one is reserved by me. So I have this one reserved and this is on my computer. You can find all of these symbols on our knowledge base. If you go into the BD knowledge base and then managing buildings and open a building, it will show you here all of the different variations. It's something I recommend to check. You can access that one by going to this question mark here, product documentation. It will then bring you to this page. You scroll down the user manual. And here you can search for either sync or whatever you need. Here it will show you all these settings regarding sync. So if I go back into Open Building, I can now go into my template. I can select my template. I can right click. I can click Copy Building. And I can enter my webinar demo. And it will now copy the template building and create a new building called webinar demo. So this is basically a building based on the template. So all the heights, all the layers and stuff are right from the beginning. If I enter this building, I can already now also showcase on the Sync webpage. If I just refresh here, you will also see the building here. So it creates the webinar building on Sync automatically, because it is stored here, but no information, there's no information inside this because the latest sort of state or object is still local. You have to open the building and close it at least once or sync it to sync for all the files to appear. So here I can just draw a quick square. This is not really a BD demo, more so a sync demo, so I'll just do this. Now if I save here, normally, you will now see that this blue cloud changes to an orange cloud. The blue cloud indicates that the version you are sitting in BD is the same that's on Sync. If it's a yellow, if it's an orange cloud, it means that the local version is newer than the Sync version, which is true because this one has 4 walls and this one doesn't. If I go into this one's empty. So now I can either sync this building back to Sync, either through closing the building or just pressing on this button or this button here. But it's a lot easier with this one, of course. The symbol next to it indicates that basically the building is reserved by you. And if you want to unrelease it, or if you want to release it so someone else can go in and work on it, you can click this one and it will unrelease it, but then you can't sync it back to Sync. If I click here, I have the options of overwriting my existing revision 1. So this is my first revision because I haven't done anything else. Or I can click on create a new revision. Here I can type added 4 walls. I click sync. And you will see the same menu in the bottom right indicating that it is syncing the building. And every time it syncs, it will only sync the changed files. So if I add a window, it will only sync the window part or the file that's affected by the window. So it won't sync the entire building every time you sync. If I now I basically just need to refresh this in some way, and it will see that the building on Sync now features a second revision with all the included files. I can also just disable the super user mode so you can see how it looks sort of without the extra databases. If I go into webinar, so here there's only 5 files. In the template, there's of course a lot of more files, but it will only upload the files that were changed when you were designing the model. This is the biggest benefit when you're working with template models or templates stored on Sync. If I compare this to this file, which was not based on a Sync building, you will now see that this building has a lot of more unnecessary files, a lot of basically scrap files. So my biggest recommendation is the fact that store your templates on Sync if you want to work with Sync, because then the UI here is a lot more cleaner. So here I can now go into, for example, show revisions. I can see the revisions of this building. There's of course only one in this case, but if I were in a building with more than one revision, then I can include that one also. I would recommend that you don't create a revision for every time you make an update to the building. I would say only use revisions for the time when you're changing the building in some way. So let's say you have the terrace on the right side of the building, and then you move it to the left side because the customer wanted to change. Then you can make a new revision with the terrace on the other side. Don't make a revision for every window you add or every wall you draw, because there will be a lot of revisions. Keep those as saves, and those will still work the same way as before. So if I go into here, select save, I will now not have that many saves, but you will still be able to work with your saves. It's just not the same as revisions. Keep your revisions to larger changes to the building, basically. And if I were to go into the, let's just go into sheets, let's add a architectural drawing. And while we're here, we can also, let's say I have a sales guy on Sync who doesn't have access to BD, but he has a lot of documents or a lot of reference drawings I need to reference in BD, or have some third-party consultant or external party which does the IFC for me. They can add the IFC file here or the DVG. So they just click the plus button bottom right, import files, and then they just add their DVG file. You click save. And now if I go into reference drawings here, I can insert reference drawing. And if I have this one checked, the read from sync one, you can now click DVG and it will find the DVG file, which is located on sync out here. So you have a direct connection with the browser, basically, or the UI. And then now I can click use reference color, no. And then I can just OK. And then add my reference drawing. So the same thing with IFCs or DVGs or anything. They are now linked to the ones in the Sync UI. So you don't need to store it under the building folder or on your desktop. You can sort of always directly store it on Sync here, and it will be included. And now I will remove this reference drawing because I don't want to see it here. And then I will have this document here. And because with Sync, a add-on called Publisher is also included. So you can now go into Archives, Export, and Publisher. So let's say I have this document here, the architectural first floor. I can now, I want to print that one as PDF or DVG or some other, it doesn't really matter which one I choose. But here I can create my new publisher set. I can also use the existing ones, of course. Webinar set. I can click new and then browse. And I want to add, let's say, my first walls. Or let's sync this building actually, and then I will use the sheet. So let's just wait for that one to upload. So you see here, uploading new files was only 42 kilobytes, and that's of course only the sheet and the reference drawing that I had earlier. And now you can also see that it automatically changed to this blue cloud, which indicates that this one is up to date with the one on Sync, which is always good, of course. You can go to Export and Publisher, I click New, and then Browse. And I can add my, let's take the first floor down here. So I have my sheet. I can make a PDF file. And let's say I want to, we also discussed in the previous webinar, you can have custom labels set up. So I want when this file is printed as a PDF, we can apply a label. And let's say I want to add a sync label called, let's call it floor plan. Floor plans here. So I click save. I click publish. click OK. And either I sync here or I close the building. Let's just keep syncing here so we don't have to exit the building. And that you see here, I'm always overwriting the existing revision, so I don't need to create a new revision every time. I can, of course, if I want to, but I feel like you don't want to overcrowd it with a lot of revisions. And now it only took 3 seconds. Can I go back to sync, refresh this, and you will now see that the PDF file under floor plan was added here. So I can either, of course, view it in preview, or I can download it, of course. So that's sort of how the publisher merges with the sync. You are able to automatically assign sync labels to documents from BD to sync, which is sort of the reason or the whole idea with the sync labels. Let's say I also frame these ones. I select these, I select these. And I create panels. And let's just take a quick, let's just do the mainframe. So I'm now generating panel drawings for all the drawings. So to sort of give you a bigger scale on how you can utilize the publisher and really make sure that everything gets published correctly and it's easier to navigate. So let's see. It's now just automatically making the panel drawings. There we go. I will also at the same time go into output. I will make some NC outputs. I will do a Randic file for all walls. There, and we can close this. And now I can go into Publisher again. I've also set up the shortcut key up here, so it's a lot easier to find. Now I can select my Randic files, and that these, of course, I want to keep as original file format because they are already the right file format. I can remove the name of the file and just click a wildcard like this star symbol. This indicates I want to take all the CDT files. And here I can apply the sync label. Let's say I want to production. I have my own NC labels up here, or labels up here. So let's take the production one. I also want to include my panel drawings, these ones. And I will, of course, want these to take all of them. So I don't need to specify every single one. And I want this one to be, no, let's do it like this. I want to make a PDF book. And let's call this one production drawings. And inside this PDF book, so this will create an empty PDF book at this point. And now I can add drawings inside this PDF book so they're all in one complete book. Click browse, and I add these production drawings. Click OK. And this one, I also want the production to be added. So I will now print my floor plan, my NC files with the sync label production, and my production drawings with the production. And I click publish. And of course, you set up, you configure the publisher set yourself once, basically, and then every time you open a new building, it will utilize that set. So you can prepare it once, and then it will work for every new building you do. And now we can sync it back. And now it will find a lot more files, of course, because there is the framing side and the production drawings and the machine files. Now it's here. It took 6 seconds. I go back into the demo building. I do a quick refresh, and then you will now see that there are a lot more drawings. You have the individual drawings here, which is in VXP format. But now I can click on my production label, which I added to these files. I will find my production drawings PDF. I can open in preview, and then I can look at all the drawings in the same book, or I can download it or view it online or whatever I need. I can of course just click download here, and then open the PDF and see it in PDF format instead. So this works if you have maybe an iPad in the production or a tablet of any kind. If I go back to production drawings, I can now also see my CDT files, my Randic files, and you can of course create one label called Randic and one Weinmann and one Handegger. And basically, any machine you have, it's when you sort of have established a quite good logical labeling system, it is extremely easy to use, and it's a lot easier to navigate for both the production crew and the designers themselves. And of course, including with this, there is the automated 3D model. So I can click here, open in 3D view, click architectural model. And then this is, of course, live synced with the model in BD. So if I were to add a window, this one will update. And of course, it's the same on the framing side. So this is the architectural side. I can now switch to the framing model, which of course will look the same, but in this case, it will also have the actual framing parts. It will have the siding boards, the sheeting, and everything like that. So now we can click, select individual siding boards or individual sheets, and that's about it on the BD side. And of course, I can exit my buildings as usual. So I click close building, and then OK. And then here I have the option to choose if I want to push to sync now, or if I know I'm going to work on it in 5 minutes or 2 minutes, then I can click keep as local building, and then it won't push it to sync. So you have to go into it next time and then push to sync. You can sort of choose here, and up here is the same window that popped up earlier, where you can choose to overwrite the existing revision or create a new revision. Let's say create a new revision, final revision, and then click close. And now it will close the building and of course sync it back to sync for the final revision. And you will now see when this is finished uploading, go back to sync. I can go to webinar demo building. And same thing here also, I can go into edit on this top right, and then I can change the building name here, building name 2, and the city 5, building size 150 square meters. If I change any of these values, it will also follow into the building itself. So if I open the building in BD again, so let's say it's the address changed during the billing process, or the square meters change, anything changed during the billing process, the salesperson can change that from the sync UI instead of going into BD. So the next time someone tries to either publish any drawings with the document data card or enter the billing data card, it will say this, billing data card fields updated from sync. And it will highlight the fields that were changed. So it includes the changes you do in the UI on the web, into the browser itself or into the building itself. And now you have, of course, your 3 revisions. So if I were to close this building again, if I go into, now I'm in the building on the web, I see I'm on revision 3. I can click on this clock here. And under revisions, I can see my 3 revisions. Let's say I don't want, let's say this is the actual final revision of the building. I can now add my lock here. So add revision lock. I will also add my override lock, which means that this building can change now. it is locked as it is. It will never change unless someone unlocks it. But it's a good way of saying that this building is now finished, no more changes. And you will now see the building here. It will indicate the override lock and the revision lock. If I were to open someone else's building, for example here, Christian, it will say building revision is reserved by the user. I click OK. It will still let me open the building. I just can't change or save the building. So I can still open the building and maybe measure something and just see what some dimension is. Now there's nothing here, but it's the same idea that now when I close it, you will also see this symbol here. It says blocked, so I can't actually just save this building. Close. And this indicates basically just your local changes, but in this case, just ignore. And it will also say here on the way out when you're leaving the building that the building revision was reserved by Christian. So that was about it on the revision side or the screen side. Do you have anything to add, Kimmo, there regarding the presentation? I'll make the presenters.
It was all, I think, quite good.
And it is. I will also mention that everything I showed is, of course, also included on the knowledge base, which I showed earlier. So just go there and you will see every step I made, basically, which explains it in really good detail.
Yeah. Now it's time for questions, and also if you want to ask live, you can also raise your hand.
So let's see.
Is there anyone?
Yeah, looks like we have.
There's one. Okay, Gerard Bongers. I will unmute you. How can I do it?
I think he is. I can probably mute him here. There. You are now unmuted if you want to either ask your question by voice or if you can ask your question in the question box.
Is it possible to export a model which is made in Sync to a VXZ file so I can send it to a customer who has not Vertex Sync?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can show you that one. I can show it.
Yeah, it's in the building browser. The
Yeah,
functionality for that.
I will take the screen for a second here.
Yeah.
And now it should be share. Is it share now?
It is now. Yeah, live.
So if you go into open building, you can, under your Sync browser here, you can select any building and then right click, and then you can export to the VXZ file.
Okay.
So when you're working in Sync, it used to be under here. It used to be when you're inside the building, it was under, let's just open the building and I'll show you. So it's, of course, it's a revision log, so it will tell you that I now can't save the building, but it's okay. It used to be under export and then export building to VXZ, but when you're working.
That's why I looked for it, and that's because I couldn't find it. So
yeah, because the Sync has a different kind of structure and that kind of stuff. Then that's why it's in the browser.
Okay. Yeah, then I search on the wrong place.
Yeah,
but now you do. I know where it is, so no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the reason why it has moved from here to the building browser is because what Kimmo said. I mean, you also have to take into consideration what the files are on the web browser. So it also includes those files which are necessary. But it is fully possible to export.
Okay,
So,
few questions. There was question about, do I now share something?
yep.
Question about what is difference between save and revision. Little bit simplify. Save is local and revisions are for sync buildings. So that's the difference between the save and revision. Another question was about who can manage custom and share the custom to the users. You have to be the sync admin user that you can share the custom, but the user can download the custom. So
any user can download the custom, but only the role admin on Sync web browser can upload the custom.
yeah. Any other questions?
Seems to be.
I don't see any other questions so far. So that was the, how can I say it, Sync webinar series. Okay, now there's something. What recommendations for protocols should be followed if separate users are at the same time creating new piece profiles in their separately downloaded environments? Is the environment revision concern? I would say that as today or before sync and custom sharing functionality, the same idea. You have to have, the protocol inside the your company that who is going to make those custom changes. And this is the tool where you need, for example, one more designer to your building or project where you involve, then you can easily share the custom to that user with Sync. So there is no any kind of merging functionalities for customs than before. So this is for making for the sharing the custom easily with BD, and when you have some kind of changes for the custom, it only makes the update for those change files, and it's very quick to do. It's like a service between the BD and Sync where you can share the custom easily. You don't need to make any other cloud services for sharing the custom, and it will be handled, and there's a notification, and when there's something new in the custom, when you, as Philip told in the demo, that when you open the BD, it tells that, okay, now there's a new custom environment available. Do you want to use that? And that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So the tool is more or less, at the moment at least, between the super users and distributing it to the users, not between the super users.
Yeah.
But hopefully in the future.
Yeah. Any other questions? So, but after this webinars, and whenever you have something to ask from Sync and you want to see the demo, or you want to start with the trials or whatever, just contact our companies around the world, so we are ready to help you.
Exactly, and I do recommend, just to mention, that we have had 2 previous webinars regarding Sync on the web browser. So I recommend watching them in series, basically. So watch the first one, watch the second one, and watch the third one, because they sort of talk about the same thing, but on different sides of the Sync side. So it's really good to have all of it. And this, of course, is also recorded, so you can rewatch it in the future.
Yeah. So we are ready today. So thank you for all in participating in this webinar.
We do have one question here, where do I find the videos basically? And they are on knowledge base, and I think you do have some other place. I guess they're also on YouTube, Kimmo, or
Yeah.
yeah. So
YouTube, yeah.
YouTube channel. They will all be uploaded to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And they're also knowledge base, but I would say they're a bit more harder to find on the knowledge base maybe than the YouTube channel. So just search for Vertex BD software systems.
Thank you for your time. And have a nice day, and take care of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.